the sweep of my second hand. Just about. And good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the 29 Palms Planning Commission. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote. Not roll call vote. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cure?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana?
Here.
Vice Chair Walker?
Aye.
Chair
We're here.
Krushat?
Here.
All present?
We're all here.
It's been a day.
Time for announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going to the city website and clicking on the meeting agendas link. Public comments. This is the time for the public to address the Planning Commission on issues within the jurisdiction of the Commission that are not on this agenda. All comments are to be directed to the Chair of the Commission and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. There is a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you haven't already done so, please fill out name and address slips and give them to the Planning Commission Secretary. The Planning Commission is prohibited by the Brown Act from taking action or discussing at length items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the item on the agenda. So I would now like to open for public comments. Any slips? Anybody? Then I now close public comments. Commission comments, reports of meetings attended. Let's start on this end. Commissioner Cure.
Any other, the meetings attended outside of this meeting?
Yeah.
The last meeting.
Okay.
I have not attended any other meetings since our last, but I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Commissioner Garcia.
I haven't attended any meetings since the last one.
Vice Chair Walker.
I've attended lots of meetings since our last one, but none of them for the city, all of them for the base.
Okay. And the only meetings I have attended are board meetings for the 29 Palms Historical Society, and I would advise everybody, if you're not a member, be a member. I mean, there's a lot of we have interesting displays, we have interesting activities, and we'll be putting together our second Friday of the month lecture series that we usually do with the Desert Institute. Those will start in around September, and we haven't got it out yet, but that'll be forthcoming. Okay, thank you. Move on to the consent calendar. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes from our meeting on the 20th of June?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Cure?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana?
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker?
Aye.
Chair Krushat?
Aye.
5-0 approved.
All right, I'd like to move on to public hearings. Our first one is on I think it's the big one, yeah. DCA Chapter 19.72, Density Bonus, Chapter 19.144, Community Care Facilities, Chapter 19.116, Emergency Shelters. I'm going to go over the order of precedence for anybody who's here. What we will do is we'll get our staff report, we'll open it up for questions to the commission, then we'll open the public hearing, and we'll close that public hearing, have a commission discussion, and then move on to a motion, or if we need more time, we'll find out about that. So I turn it over to you, Keith. Thank you.
All right, so this is a bundle of ordinance changes. All these are prescribed by recent state legislation pertaining to affordable housing. These are 3 attempts by the state to address the housing crisis as the state describes it. So there are 3 different issues that we'll discuss. I'll do some flipping back and forth between the presentation and the ordinance as drafted. The first one is a density bonus provisions. This is a fairly lengthy part of the proposed development code amendment, and it has lots and lots of tables in there. And this is a change from our prior density bonus regulations. And let me see if I can bring it up. And what it does is it establishes a whole series of tables that prescribe a certain percentage of additional units a developer could apply for if the particular housing project dedicates so much of whatever percentage of their project to low income or very low income or moderate income level housing. For instance, if, as you can see on the screen, if there are 10% of a proposed development, it would be low income units, they would get a 20% density bonus. So in a 10 unit project, they would be able to get 2 additional units. If they had, if they prescribed 10% of that particular project as low-income units. And similar tables are there for very low income and moderate income. They are somewhat formula-based, but realistically, anyone's going to have to look up the chart to see how much bonus they're going to get for whatever type of development they're proposing and what kind of income they're dedicating. Secondly, we have our community care facilities provisions. This ordinance amends the requirement the facility be located on certain sizes of streets and removes, and there's some other provisions that are being removed with regards to distance between facilities and transitional areas and language that was in prior versions of this particular section of the development code. If the commission likes, I do have that provision of the draft ordinance available to review as well. Emergency shelters, the only main change that we could determine prescribed by state law is the revision of the parking requirements to 1 space per employee of an emergency shelter. With those provisions, and we do have our consultant here, Nicole Chris from Terra Nova, who did the heavy lifting on the research of reviewing state legislation and helping us draft the amendments to our development code. She is here to answer these questions. I do have the proposed ordinance available. I did not put them into the presentation because of the length, but we do have them available. So our recommendation is that since these provisions of the development code changes are reflective of the housing element update that we did last year, that we can find these changes exempt from CEQA. We're suggesting you adopt the resolution adopting these changes and forward a recommendation to the City Council for the approval of these development code amendments. And that concludes my presentation.
I'm going to open this up for the commission to question staff. I do have one. What was the issue with the community care facilities, and how did I miss that slide? What was the change?
Community care facilities.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, it has to be on a certain size streets, and there was also a couple of provisions that are being removed.
Yeah, because like I saw, like there was 1,000 feet requirement between, and now there is no So
Right.
it's, you can have the community care facility right next to any
To
other.
another community care facility.
To another community care facility, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
For the density bonus, did it talk about in there, because I can't find it, I've been looking for it and I didn't mark it last night when I was reading this. Did it talk about the ability to build above 3 floors if they do certain things?
That was not part of that.
It's not a standard that's in the law. The development code amendment for density bonus is modified to apply to the city, but is entirely guided by state requirements, and we have to be compliant with that.
Right,
The height issue is not part of density bonus.
okay.
So
Uh, do-
our development standards still apply on these.
Correct. Someone could ask for a modification, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. And I'm going to ask if any commissioner would like additional time to study that further. I'm going to open that up. Does anybody, because I know it was a lot of material to go through. Most of it I saw as just adding the density charts and then the verbiage to our existing development code to just get us in compliance with state. Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Now I'm going to open it up to public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on this piece of the development code that we're looking at revising? Okay, then I close public hearing. Commission discussion? Anything else that we have for staff?
Yeah, to Miss Nikki, right? Your name? Nicole. Okay. To her point, if somebody came with anything to request higher, that would just have to be something that we look into. But they can apply under our city, what we currently have as our code.
Yeah, but it was almost midnight, and I could have swore it said something where they can get an additional 3 stories not to exceed 33 feet on top, but I've been looking since I've got here and I have not found that statement.
Are you
so
that was in the ADUs, we talked about the height of,
I know it, but,
no,
so
this
maybe
was,
that was where it was at, but I could have swore it was in here.
oh,
but-
okay.
Yeah.
No, I had the height issue in the ADU. A lot of material.
Yeah. I don't have any other discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion that we find the amendments to our code exempt from CEQA, and that we adopt Chapter 1972 Density Bonus, Chapter 19.114 Community Care Facility, and Chapter 19.116 Emergency Shelters. I'm
I-
saying it slow for Shelley.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Cure?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana?
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker?
Aye.
Chair Krushat?
Aye.
5-0 approved.
Now, the second item on public hearing will be the accessory dwelling units. And this will be, again, a proposed change to the development code to get us in compliance with this state. Keith, go ahead.
All right, so this is an amendment to our development code, again, addressing recent state legislation. It will replace our existing second unit permit portion of the development code. So this is a fairly lengthy, ordinance that does several things. It reduces the minimum size of a junior ADU or a JADU. It adds in there the process for denial of an accessory dwelling unit and identifies height limitations for various different classifications of ADUs. So just to be clear, and our consultant is here to correct me if I misspeak. Every single family dwelling lot with a single family dwelling on it can have a full second unit or accessory dwelling unit and a junior accessory dwelling unit attached to the main unit. So there's a total of 3 units every single family lot can have. So I just want to make that clear for the record. Is that correct? Okay. And the other thing that is proposed in our development code amendment is the clarification of parking requirements. Again, we're suggesting that we find this project exempt from CEQA. We are asking that you adopt a resolution and forward a recommendation to the City Council for approval of this development code amendment.
Well, that was a quick presentation. Okay. Okay, then I open it up to the commission for questions for staff. I do have one. Could you go back to where you talk about the disapproval process? I mean, I remember reading it. I don't have that in front of me here. Where it was is it the director of, it's your disapproval process, correct?
Right, so let me
Go, could you go over that?
Yeah. So here's the relevant paragraphs, and this is sometimes when you talk about denials, it gets
Yeah.
into you have to talk about double, triple negatives, so it kind of throws everybody off.
Yeah.
Number 3 here, if the director denies an application for an accessory dwelling unit or JADU, the director shall comment to the applicant a list of defective or deficient items and a description of how the application can be remedied. I will say this as a normal course of action. We don't normally administratively deny applications. Most applications come in with some form of deficiency or things we want to change or negotiate. That's typically not a denial. We just go back and forth and
All right.
with the applicant to complete the application. But it also says the director should not deny an application due to the correction of nonconformity, zoning conditions, building code violations, or unpermitted structures that do not present a threat to the public health and safety and are not affected by the construction of the accessory dwelling unit. This is a little touchy, but it's also per state law. So if we, if we have an administrative citation on a property that says they've got trash, we can't hold up an accessory dwelling unit for that. That's what this paragraph says,
Okay.
as an example.
Okay. So as an example, you can hold up an application for somebody comes in and of course they have something that doesn't meet building code. Of course, that's going to be denied. What are some other examples of what they would be denied for?
Could one be like for this unpermitted structure, they happen to have something on their land that's not permitted, but that's not going to stop the build of the ADU. That's something that will be handled separately through whatever, but they can proceed with their permit to build ADU.
Right, so this says a lot, but it's still some interpretation in here. So
Is there consequences on the back end? Yes. Of
Yes.
what they're doing? Yes. But can they still move forward? Yes.
yes. It has been our standard practice that if we have a pending application on a property that has some sort of code citation on it, we want that code citation to be cleared before we issue any other further permits, okay? In general, and what this is saying, that unless the citation is public health and safety, we can't hold it up.
You just have to have a strong argument,
You have to have
that
a really
trash
strong
is
argument to deny an
causing
application.
health, safety, or something.
Yes.
But ultimately, it's not going to be denied. It's just like denied with those written conditions or comments from the director.
Or you
Yeah.
push through the code compliance issue separately and
Okay.
hard, but.
Meanwhile, it's going through.
But you can't hold up the ADU for it.
And is this largely related to the SB9 issue?
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
Consent.
Okay,
Directly.
getting
It
us
is
in
ex-
compliant
it
with
is
SB9.
SB9.
Yes, got it. And in the interest of transparency, I'm gonna, because I asked Keith this question earlier, and this is just for the benefit of my fellow commissioners. They had a 16 feet height limitation. That means that ADU can be a 2-story ADU. But the 850 square feet, that's a total. I can't have a 800 square feet on the first floor and then another 850 square feet on the second floor,
No,
correct?
that's total square footage. So
Total square footage
not-
for the
not
building, okay.
Footprint, total
Right.
square footage.
Okay,
So if you have a two-story, the maximum you would, you know, you could have a
like
420 to
400.
420.
420, right, if I was, okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff?
I'm sorry, I do.
Go ahead.
Regarding if there are public, served notice that there's going to be this, would you hold, like a public hearing through the planning commission?
Yes.
It's just something that's automatically handled through staff.
Yeah.
That's correct. So
They
in
could
the-
voice their opinion like at city council or something, even though there's not much that could be done because this is allowed.
because, yeah, so in the past, you know, when I started my career as a young planner, every, what is now called an accessory dwelling unit had to go through some sort of public hearing, whether it's a zoning administrator type or something. And the state cut that off and says you can't do that anymore. Everything's just a building permit.
Thank you.
So that means somebody builds a two-story auxiliary dwelling unit and a neighbor doesn't like it, there's no recourse, okay.
But that ADU could be 1,200 feet if it's got 2 bedrooms, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So you could build a 2-story, 1,200 foot ADU. That's
that
getting,
Mhm.
That's-
Two-story, 600 foot per story.
per story, yeah.
But it would have to be two-bedroom,
Yes.
and it would have, okay, so it would have a two-bedroom requirement, okay. Any more questions for staff? All right, then I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Anybody would like to comment on this change to our development code? And then I will close public comment. All right. Any further discussion from the commission or questions for staff?
I do not have any.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion. Did you have a
Okay.
question?
I just have a question, because I know there's some concern, like, at the park, building along the park, the zone along the park.
Well, okay, so you're talking about the National Park overlay? The National Park overlay pertains to increasing the intensity of the development there. And we're interpreting that as changing the zone, okay? But if, in our view, if you're compliant with the development code and compliant with state law, you are not intensifying the use.
Okay.
There's actually provisions in the law that a jurisdiction cannot consider an accessory dwelling unit as an intensification of density. It's provided in the state law.
Yep.
Okay. I did see something with the coastal commission where they did.
There are
allow
exceptions for the coastal commission.
Okay.
We are, until the big one hits, we are
Mhm.
not within the coastal
Got it.
commission.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that's the only thing I've seen.
Not until the San Andreas Fault goes.
Yeah, then we'll be beachfront.
property, yeah. Any more questions for staff? Okay. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'd like to motion that we find the adaptation of exempt from CEQA and that we adopt chapter 1972, nope, accessory dwelling units
Yeah.
in the
Right.
DCA.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Cure?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Pahana?
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker?
Aye.
Chair Cruciat?
And to stay in compliant with state law, aye.
5-0 approved.
Let me get my stuff together. And our third item for public hearings is DCA Article 2. And right now, then I'll turn it over to the staff for the report.
All right, so this is revisiting our allowable land use tables. As part of state law, there are quite a few changes that are being made for state law. And we are also adding or requesting that we do some additional cleanup within these tables because we're revisiting them anyway. We understand as staff that this is a lot to absorb, so let me try to do some explanations as we go along. First is adding the low barrier navigation centers allowed use in certain zones. Again, this is per state law. Adding employee housing as allowed use, and amending the permitting process for multifamily housing projects. Again, these are all there to implement and trying to address the housing crisis in the state. So, as we were going through the development code with the allowable uses table, we found quite a few clarifications that were needed, in our view, to make the process more transparent and hopefully clearer. A couple of instances, examples we'd like to expand upon is we've created in the commercial zones a broad category called general retail. So that way we don't have to list out a flower shop, a bookstore, a clothing store, all the different types of retail things. And that broad category would be applicable to all types of retail except those as otherwise listed. So, for instance, the cannabis is not allowed, and that is listed separately. That is specifically not allowed. Adult-oriented retail is not within that category because it's discussed in other portions of the development code. As the development code goes, there's always a balance between being too broad and being too specific, and we think this is an appropriate place to be broad to allow for flexibility in allowing people to come in under the general retail. The other broad category we're introducing is commercial recreation. And again, we don't feel like we need to, or we don't feel it's necessary for us to list every type of indoor recreation, whether it's an arcade, a bowling alley, a skating rink. The trend now is escape rooms. We don't think we should have to amend the development code to introduce escape rooms into development code simply because it's not listed. We want to have that ability to make those determinations that it fits within these broad categories. Again, unless otherwise listed in some other portion of the development code. We can go into each of these tables if you like, but we are ready to do that at the Commission's pleasure. We are recommending that these changes to development code are exempt from CEQA. We are asking you to adopt the resolution, and again to forward the recommendation to the City Council. And we understand that this looks like a lot of changes to the tables, and we're happy to discuss those in detail if the Commission likes.
Questions from the commission for staff? Then I have one. I would like to see, could you go to the commercial recreation? This is your new chart that you've established?
This is a new chart, yeah.
Okay, so where would an art house movie theater, by art house, a movie theater that shows older movies, where would that
The
fall?
movie theater's still a movie theater, whether or
Yeah,
not they show
okay.
new movies or old movies, so that's still
Yeah,
a movie
no,
theater.
yeah, but it's not a multiplex, that's my point.
It-
So that still falls under commercial.
That would still consider that a movie theater, because we
Okay.
do have that listed separately.
Okay. So that doesn't fall under commercial recreation?
No.
Okay.
I'm rapidly trying to follow the conversations we're talking, so.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
These are the residential charts. Let me get to the commercial. Yeah, because a lot of the, so these are the ones that we've highlighted in blue. We don't think this is like more commercial. This is what we think would fall into the commercial recreation category.
The new category of commercial recreation, okay.
Billiard
just those?
halls, miniature golf, health, gymnasiums.
They're
Ex-
crossing those out as they're not to be listed, and then the code will interpret it as a general,
As a general category.
yes.
So this is, so the yellow here is where that would fit within the various
So the
commercial.
strikeouts are no longer gonna be in the code.
And here is movie theater. We're keeping movie theater as a separate listed use.
Do I have any more questions for staff from the commission? Then I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Anybody who cares to public comment? Okay, I close public comment. And
It was
For-
many a pages, but as I got through it,
Yeah.
the cleanup makes sense.
sense.
I feel that it, some people could either go broad, but I think he covers some of the things we may be nervous about or worried about in other sections, so something that maybe you're like, oh, but it seems to be like already listed on its own.
Yeah, and another example would be alcohol uses. We list alcohol uses separately, so that would not be put into the general retail category.
Okay then, any more discussion? No, I'll close the discussion. Do I have a motion and a second? I can make the motion.
Sure.
I will make the motion that we accept the change. And let me go. Resolution planning of the city, recommending to the city council approval of development code amendment to implement a housing element upgrade adopted by the council in 2022, amending Article 2 land use and zoning districts.
And exempt.
And exempt from CEQA as well.
And exempt from CEQA as well, thank you. Yes.
That should go first.
I'll second.
That's it. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Cure?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana?
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker?
Aye.
Chair Krushat?
Aye.
5-0 approved.
Sorry, Commissioner.
Okay. Since we have nothing listed for discussion and potential action items, I'll turn it over to the community director or development director for updates.
I have a confession to make. I was not expecting this to go so smoothly, so I did not put on any additional workshops for tonight.
Oh, I thought you were about to say something else.
So, otherwise I would have put in a couple of items we could brought up for discussion. So, expect to see those in the next couple of months.
Do we have a homeless committee meeting
And
question
that's-
on the
and that-
date?
Yeah, so
Go
that's the other thing I was going to bring up. I believe Andrea's here? Okay. What I let everyone know that we cannot use the 27th because it's already been used up by another committee. So as an administrative decision, I just made the decision to put the next homeless committee on August the 1st. You as a committee can decide if that's appropriate or not. I did hear from Andrea that she could not make it that day, but I think Vino could. So whatever the commission would like, whatever the homeless committee would like to do is fine by me.
Okay, 1 August, that's a Tuesday?
It
It's
is,
the
that'll be
planning
the next
commission.
regularly scheduled planning commission.
Okay,
And this will be a study session. The homeless committee will be a study session
because
within the
because
planning
it's
commission.
advisory to the city council.
are we required to publish an agenda for that?
We. Yeah, so we will itemize the items up for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
And I
any
think,
other-
Andrea, you did say that you could remote in? I would love to remote in. Okay, perfect. Or a phone call or something along those lines?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can figure it out by that time.
Okay.
So 1st of August is good for everybody else?
Yes.
Okay. 1 August. Then Keith, looks good.
Okay.
All right. And that's the last item we had, no study session. Then I adjourn the planning commission meeting. Thank you.